called me this morning and said he had one question for me, and that was what city I was in. Because I called him on Tuesday and said, don't panic, you won't see me all week. I'm off again, but I'll be back on Saturday. And I wasn't here for last night's event because we rolled in at about 9:30 last night. So I'm going to give you a quick rundown of some things that have been going on in our lives. Rick and I left a couple of weeks ago, and we went to a show in Reno, and it was a psychic fair. And, you know, we do all kinds of events. We do music events, we do spiritual events, and we occasionally do a psychic fair, which is very fun. And so we go to the psychic fair, and I don't know how many of you remember what's been going on, but if you've seen Rick wandering around over the last month, actually about a week before the festival, he's been limping quite a bit. Anybody remember that? Those of you who don't worry about it, trust me, he was limping. At the Flute Festival in September, his knee was about this big, his left knee. And he didn't know what happened, and people were saying, maybe you got a bite. And we got home, and on Monday he said, you know, people were mentioning a bite. Will you look at my knee and see if there's a puncture spot or anything? And I did, and I said, no, but there is a very faint bruise over on the side of your knee. I said, you have injured it. And I sat there and I thought back and I said, wait a minute. About 2 weeks ago, you said your knee popped when you were out in the shop. And he goes, I forgot all about it because nothing happened. He was walking, everything was fine. It took like 5 or 6 days for this swelling to start and the problem to happen. Is this sounding familiar, Marty? Any knee problems? I don't know. Rona, knee problem? I don't know. A couple of people here have been through some knee issues. So we still didn't know what really had happened. But we went and got a brace for his knee and just started taking care of it. So we leave and we go to the psychic fair in Reno. Now, my talk is a lot about intuition and about deep listening and divine gifts. That's one of our subjects. So let me share some things that happened. We set up and everything was rolling along fine, and this man comes in at the last minute and sets up next to us and puts up these big banners, and we had to do some adjusting of our space, and we go through all of that, and I keep walking past this man, and all he's doing is talking on the phone and texting. And I go, you know, this is really weird. These people are usually talking to people, and he's just not really very interested in anything at all. Kind of busy with his own stuff, and I thought, well, this isn't going to go real well for him. But about midway through the day, I kept being drawn over there. And I've learned to listen. Heaven knows if I've learned anything, I've learned to listen. And I go read his banners, and it says, Adam Miller, healer. Okay, and I read some of the stuff on his banners. Write down that name if you need to, Adam Miller. I'll give it to you later if you need it, when you hear this story. And I went and he had a table and he had some brochures out on the table, and he was talking to someone at this point, and I just went over and I picked one up, and he just snapped around and looked at me, and I was like, I just picked up your brochure. You know, and I went back to our booth and I'm reading it, and I'm going, very interesting. And Rick was hanging out with a musician that we know that was actually here at the Yosemite Festival, and he was at this particular event as well. So Rick's off playing with this musician. And I'm trying to get his attention, so I walk over there and I go, you gotta come over here. He goes, why? I said, just come over. And he goes, okay. And he's sitting there and he's finishing what he's doing, and I go back to our booth. Well, when he comes by, he takes this big circle route and goes right past Adam's table to get to our booth instead of coming directly up the other aisle to us. And he stops and he's reading all this stuff and he's looking at it, and I'm going, come here. He's like, no, come here, I got it already, come on, I got it. So he comes back to the booth, and I said, you were reading all that? And he goes, yeah. I said, I think you need to see this guy. And he goes, you think so? And I said, did you read all that stuff? And I've got it here, and I read it to him, and he goes, you think so? I said, go talk to him. Really? Should I go talk to him? Yeah, go talk to him. So he goes and starts talking to him. And I will tell you a brief version of Adam's story. You really need to hear it off of either YouTube videos of his own or things like that if you're really interested. But Adam died at 18. He's a couple of months older than I am. He's 53 years old. And at 18, he died for 4.5 minutes. And the process that happened was very similar to what most people explain. He went through a white light. There was someone on the other side that met him and guided him to what appeared to be a mansion. And he was told he had to go inside. And when he got there were a panel of people. And they sat him down and said, everyone has a contract. Be open-minded. This is directly opposed to all of my beliefs. Everyone has a contract. And you come in with certain things you have to do. Now, some of that I can go with. I believe we're free to choose, which of course ultimately we are, because we don't have to follow our contracts. But we have a contract. And they didn't only tell him about his contract, they showed it to him. And it ended at 18 years old. But they told him he could renegotiate if he did certain things. And this healing work was some of what he needed to do. He does not physically do the healing work. He's not like some of these healers that you would see that would go into a trance and put on a big show and act. He just puts his hands on you. He's talking to you. He tells you not to move. He looked at Rick's knee. He also has medical training. He's done EMT training, LVN training, and has a psychology license. So he's had a lot of training backing up what he does. So Rick gets on his little table and he's feeling around Rick's knee and he goes, you have holes on either side. Your kneecap, when you turned in the shop, your kneecap actually popped out and back in, and you tore the ACL ligaments on both sides of your knee. They are attached in the back, but they are torn. This is normally a surgical procedure. And Rick kind of looks at him and goes, okay. And he goes, feel. And he let Rick feel on either side of his knee and feel what. There were holes where the ligaments should be attached, and there were holes on both sides. And he said, I'm going to do a little bit of work here. I don't normally do things like this at a show, but I'm just going to do a little stuff. He picked up on this energy from this man that also has a lot of healing capabilities and gifts, and he picked up on that right away, and he did just a very small amount of work on Rick for a couple of minutes. Next day, we come back, second day of the show. He goes, let me see what's going on with your knee, Rick. And Rick walks over to his table and sits down and he goes, feel. The holes were gone. The holes were gone. He does not claim to do any of this work himself. He claims that ascended masters talk to him, move through him, do what he needs. He really just barely touches you, and you feel things going on. So after Rick has this great reaction, I'm like, you want to do me? Can you do me? Because as some of you know, I've been talking about my back hurting, and I don't normally talk about these things, so why would I for a year and a half be telling you that I've had a back issue? Because I don't ever tell anybody this stuff, but I have been, and I think it's because I can tell you now that my back does not hurt at all. Not at all. This man put his hands on me and had me lay on my side, and he was able to tell me medically, it was part psychic information, but medically what was going on with me. That I had several discs that were herniated, that L4 was also out of my neck, which was hurting my neck and my shoulders. Look at this guy. And Sandy's worked on that. And that I have a slight scoliosis, and asked me if I had a history of it, which I don't know, but my mother had back issues. So he put his hands on me, and I can't see. I'm laying on my side, and it felt like my entire body was clay, and it was just twisting back and forth. It was the most bizarre thing. Rick was watching from our booth and said, no, he just had his hands on you. And he's talking to you like normal. He doesn't have the greatest bedside manner, doesn't do anything airy-fairy. He's just talking to you, and he's kind of a little rough on the edges. And I got up and walked away, and I, because of Rick's knee, did more work on Rick's knee that day, and we had to pack up, and I had to do all the pack out. Because he told Rick, you basically have to consider yourself post-surgical, you're not doing anything for 2 weeks, stay off of your knee as much as possible, and that's the way you have to treat it. So I had to load everything into the truck, and by the end, I was in severe pain. I was crying. I was hurting so bad. And Adam walks out to the truck and he goes, you okay? And I said, it really hurts. He said, it will, but don't worry. And I said, okay. So I get back in the truck after loading, and instantly it's all gone. So we get home. We did a little circuitous route and visited some friends. And Came home, with a new travel trailer when we came home. We stopped in the Bay Area and picked up a travel trailer that we'd been looking at for a couple of weeks. So we come home, and I got to unload the truck now, and I had this little twinge just right on the right side in the back over my rear end. And I told myself, no, you've been healed. You've gone through almost a week with no pain. This is memory pain from doing something that you think hurts you. That fast, it was gone. Instantly, when I told myself it was memory pain, it was gone. Loaded up the entire trailer, we went off again, out to the desert, and a lot of things have happened. So, why tell this story? Beyond that somebody needs to hear it, and I don't know who. We're going to go back to this guy next week. He's going to do some deeper work on both of us. This man uses divine gifts. And we might look at this as extraordinary gifts. I certainly do. But each and every one of you have your own divine gifts. You have something that you do, that you give to this world. And you are here on purpose. That much I can say. Contract, I don't know. But you are here on purpose with a divine mission of sorts. Maybe that is the same thing as the contract. I don't know. But I know that you are here for a reason. There is something you are here to do. There is something you are here to give. But we don't use it. And we sometimes know what that is, but, I can't do that. That's too hard. Nobody's going to believe it. We talk ourselves out of our divine gifts. Nobody will honor me by paying me to do that. Anybody have these thoughts of anything in your life? A few heads nodding. Uh-huh. So now I'm going to get my notes, because now I got to get into some things that I wrote down. When we tap into our own divine gifts, and we consciously use them for the good of all, we have no choice but to prosper. As long as we believe it. And we have to believe it. If we don't believe it, we have to recognize that this is still our limiting thinking and our own negativity from whatever has happened in our history that is not serving us. And we need to let those things go. We have to step out of negative habits and routines. In order for our own divine gifts to truly flow into the world, we have to release resentment. We have to release old hurts. We have to release our belief that we're smaller than we really are. Because I got to tell you, each and every one of us is as big and as bold and as beautiful and as divine as this man who does this incredible work. The difference is something happened to him that caused him to believe it. To believe it. We all have access to ascended masters, to spirit, to life, to love, to beauty. We all have access to it. But we don't believe we do. We think that somebody else has these extraordinary talents and abilities. And we forget that we have all of this as well.